Hello and welcome to our nightly journey through space and time. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and allow your mind to drift to the distant corners of the universe. Tonight, we will talk about the whisper from the void. Imagine for a moment that for decades humanity has been listening intently to the cosmic silence, sending out its questions, its hopes, its sheer loneliness. And then one day, on one unremarkable summer evening, an answer echoes back from the abyss. Short, mysterious, yet absolutely clear. And then silence once again for 40 long years. How would you feel if you learned that this signal might have repeated, that the cosmos may have spoken to us again? In this sleep exploration, we will dive into the history of the most mysterious radio signal in human history, the signal known simply as WOW. We will analyze it from its very beginning up to the present day, explore every theory, and try to understand whether it was a message from an extraterrestrial intelligence or merely a bizarre quirk of nature. Get ready. Our journey to the stars starts right now. To fully appreciate the significance of this event, let's transport ourselves back to an era when space felt closer, and the dream of contact with other civilizations was deeply woven into the cultural fabric. The year was 1977. The world was pulsing to the sound of disco. Star Wars was dominating the movie screens, and humanity was breathlessly following the journey of the Voyager probes toward the outer limits of the solar system. At this very time, quietly and without much fanfare in the state of Ohio, a radio telescope affectionately nicknamed the Big Ear was operating. It belonged to the Ohio State University and was one of the few instruments on the planet dedicated solely to listening to the cosmos as part of Project SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The project was led by the renowned astronomer Frank Drake, and the routine work of data analysis was handled by a team of volunteers and scientists. One of them was astronomer Jerry Amon. His job involved reviewing endless printouts of data the telescope collected every second. It was monotonous, almost meditative work. The computer translated the intensity of the radio signal into an alphanumeric code, and Amon's task was to search this stream of symbols for anomalies, deviations from the universe's background noise, dozens, hundreds, thousands of pages filled with seemingly meaningless sequences of ones, twos, and threes. No one expected a miracle. In those years, Project SETI was more an act of faith than a full scientific program, but it is precisely in this atmosphere of quiet routine and silent hope that the most incredible discoveries often occur. The date was August 15, 1977. The Big Ear telescope was methodically scanning the sky, its massive reflector aimed at the constellation Sagittarius towards the center of our Milky Way galaxy. This wasn't a random choice. Astronomers hypothesized that if advanced civilizations existed anywhere, they would most likely be concentrated in the densely star-populated central regions of the galaxy. The telescope operated automatically, logging all incoming data onto continuous paper printouts. A few days later, Jerry Amon, following his routine, sat down at his desk to analyze the latest batch of data. He was scanning printout after printout until his eyes snagged on one specific line. Amidst the usual chaos of low-level noise and readings, an anomalous sequence of characters stood out sharply on the left side of the sheet. 6EQUJ5. Amon, an experienced researcher, instantly recognized that he was looking at something completely unprecedented. He grabbed a red pen and circled the sequence. Unable to contain his excitement, he scrawled a single word in the margin, a word that would forever enter the history of astronomy. Wow! It was the guttural reaction of a scientist who had perhaps become the first person in human history to see tangible evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. He couldn't know all the details yet, but his intuition screamed at him. This wasn't interference, it wasn't equipment malfunction, and it certainly wasn't a natural phenomenon. This was something entirely different, something that fundamentally should not have been there. What exactly stunned Jerry Amon? Why did this short sequence of symbols provoke such an intense reaction? To understand that, we need to delve a little deeper into how the Big Ear telescope actually worked. The coding system was quite straightforward. Signal intensity was measured on a scale. A blank space meant zero intensity. Numbers 1 through 9 corresponded to increasing intensity. If the signal was even stronger, letters of the English alphabet were used. A meant 10, B meant 11, and so on. The sequence 6, E, Q, U, J, 5 described a signal that first built up smoothly, reached its peak, and then faded out just as smoothly. The peak value, denoted by the letter U, corresponded to an intensity 30 times greater than the average background noise of space. This was an incredibly powerful and crisp burst, but the most critical factor was its duration. The entire process lasted exactly 72 seconds. Why is that important? The reason is this: the Big Ear telescope was stationary. It relied on the Earth's own rotation to scan the sky. Any cosmic source passing through its field of view had to be observed for precisely 72 seconds. The WOW signal fit this time frame perfectly. This was undeniable proof that the source of the signal was far out in space, not on Earth or in Earth orbit. It behaved exactly as a hypothetical signal from an extraterrestrial civilization was expected to behave. But there was one final and arguably most crucial detail that elevated the WOW signal from a mere anomaly to a true sensation: its frequency. The telescope registered the spike precisely at 1420 megahertz. In radio astronomy, this frequency is famously known as the hydrogen line, or the 21 centimeter frequency. Why is this specific frequency so special? Hydrogen is the single most abundant element in the universe. It is the fundamental building block for stars, galaxies, and life itself. Specifically, at 1420 megahertz, neutral hydrogen emits a faint, yet pervasive, radio background noise. As far back as 1959, physicists Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Cocconi hypothesized that if any intelligent civilization wanted to broadcast a message across interstellar space, this frequency would be their most logical choice. It is essentially a universal cosmic channel, immediately recognizable to any technologically advanced species familiar with the fundamentals of physics. A signal on this line wouldn't be easily absorbed or distorted by the interstellar medium, and it is easily distinguishable from the background noise of most stars. Finding a powerful, narrow-band signal precisely on the hydrogen line was akin to washing up on a desert island and finding a bottle containing a note written in a language absolutely everyone understands. This was a coincidence simply too astonishing to be attributed to random chance. It represented the single, strongest piece of evidence suggesting the WOW signal had an artificial, intelligent origin. Let's dive into the most famous part of this entire story, the iconic code 6EQUJ5. This wasn't some random string of characters. It was essentially a time-intensity graph of the signal, recorded in a highly specific shorthand. Every 12 seconds, the computer analyzed the incoming data and assigned it a corresponding character. The initial observation showed intensity 6. The next 12 seconds jumped dramatically to E, which signifies an intensity 14 times greater than the background noise. Then came the true peak, Q and U, representing values 26 and 30 times above the background. Following the peak, the signal began its rapid descent, J and 5. This entire profile, a gradual smooth rise followed by an equally smooth decline, matched the classic Gaussian curve perfectly. This is exactly the shape a signal should take when emitted by a point source and observed as it passes directly through the radio telescope's fixed beam pattern. Picture a flashlight beam slowly sweeping across a wall. The spot of light appears gradually, brightens, hits maximum intensity at the center, and then fades away. The WOW signal had behaved in precisely the same manner. This near-perfect shape was yet another argument against theories suggesting mundane terrestrial interference or equipment failure. Interference typically appears as abrupt, chaotic spikes. Equipment malfunctions almost never produce such a beautiful and symmetrical signature. Everything pointed toward an authentic, distant source behaving exactly as physics predicted it should, It wasn't just an anomaly, it was an anomaly that looked terrifyingly correct. Once the initial shock of the discovery wore off, the frantic work began. The scientists first attempted to pinpoint the signal's exact location in the sky. The data from the Big Ear telescope narrowed the search area down to 2 small patches within the constellation Sagittarius. As we noted, this constellation lies in the direction of the galactic center, the densely star-filled heart of the Milky Way. It seemed that locating the source would be simple. Astronomers across the globe aimed their most powerful instruments, both optical and radio telescopes, at this precise patch of sky. They searched for anything unusual, a star with anomalous characteristics, a potential exoplanet, any hint of something capable of producing such a powerful and deliberate signal. But what greeted them was profound disappointment. The sky in that region was absolutely empty. There was no bright star, no known astronomical object that could account for the event. It was simply a dark, unremarkable region of space. This void only deepened the mystery. If this was a signal from an alien civilization, where were they? What star was their planet orbiting? Or perhaps it was a transmission from a giant interstellar vessel just passing through. The lack of an obvious source transformed the puzzle into a genuine enigma. The signal had arrived from nowhere and vanished into thin air, leaving behind only 72 seconds of data and a single word scrawled in red ink. Right after the anomaly was detected, Jerry Amon and his colleagues made frantic, desperate attempts to recapture the mysterious signal. They knew that if this truly was contact, there was a chance it would repeat. For the next several months, the Big Ear telescope was almost constantly pointed at that exact patch of sky in the Sagittarius constellation. Astronomers strained to hear through the cosmic silence, experiencing a level of tension the CT project had never known. Every whisper, every unexpected surge of background noise made their hearts skip a beat. But space remained utterly silent. The wow signal never repeated, not the next day, not a week later, not even after a month. The ensuing silence was deafening. It immediately raised profound questions. If this was a deliberate transmission, why was it sent only a single time? Was it perhaps a type of galactic lighthouse that operates on immensely long cycles? Or did the alien transmitter malfunction immediately after sending the burst? Or maybe it wasn't meant for us at all. Perhaps we merely intercepted a snippet of a private communication, an interstellar fax that happened to streak across our path. Dozens of scientists across the globe attempted to locate the signal over 100 times, utilizing telescopes far more powerful and sensitive than Big Ear. All their efforts proved futile. The WOW signal remains a cosmic ghost, a unique event recorded just once, never to be heard from again. Years turned into decades. The WOW signal, once a scientific sensation, slowly evolved into a legend, a sort of holy grail for enthusiasts dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It became a symbol of hope, yet simultaneously a poignant reminder of our profound cosmic solitude. In scientific circles, the signal was treated with respect but also with a hefty dose of skepticism. The failure to detect a repeat observation made any proper study of it impossible. You simply cannot build a viable theory based on a single, isolated event, no matter how intriguing the initial data might be. The WOW signal became the classic example of an unreproducible result, a nightmare scenario for any researcher. Nevertheless, it continued to captivate imaginations. Books were written and documentaries were filmed about it. It became an inseparable part of discussions surrounding the Fermi paradox, the fundamental question that asks, if the universe is teeming with intelligence, then where is everybody? The WOW signal seemed like the only, albeit faint, answer to that question. We were here, but you won't hear us again. It lingered in the air as a silent reproach, reminding us how little we truly know about the cosmos and how vast the distances can be, not just in space but also in time. Perhaps the civilization that sent the signal perished long ago, and all we managed to catch was the final, faint echo of its existence, traversing the abyss of ages to reach us. Scientists are, of course, pragmatic people. They couldn't simply let the wow signal languish in the category of unexplained phenomena. Right from the start, attempts were made to find a more prosaic, earthbound explanation. The initial suspect was radio interference. Could the signal have come from a passing airplane, a military satellite, or even a ground source that accidentally bounced off some space debris and into the telescope's dish? This hypothesis was investigated thoroughly, but it quickly fell apart. First, the frequency of 1420 MHz is protected. Strict international agreements worldwide prohibit its use by any terrestrial transmitters precisely to prevent interference with radio astronomers. The likelihood that someone both violated this restriction and managed to create a signal that perfectly mimicked a true cosmic source was vanishingly small. It'd be stumped. Secondly, the Big Ear telescope used two receivers scanning the sky with a slight time delay. The wow signal was registered by only one of these receivers. The second receiver, which should have captured it about 3 minutes later, picked up nothing. While this initially caused doubt, scientists soon realized it actually proved the transmitter had either shut off or moved out of the beam within those 3 minutes, which fits perfectly with the concept of a single, short-lived message. Thus, the simple explanations were dismissed one after another, leaving the mystery only deeper. For nearly 4 decades, the mystery of the wow signal remained unsolved. None of the theories put forward could fully account for all its strange characteristics. Then in 2016, a completely new and unexpected theory emerged, one that finally seemed capable of solving the entire enigma. Astronomer Antonio Paris of St. Petersburg College in the US proposed that the signal's source wasn't an extraterrestrial civilization, but rather a comet. At first glance, the idea sounds completely absurd. Comets are, after all, essentially dirty cosmic snowballs, icy remnants left over from the formation of our solar system. How could these possibly generate a powerful radio transmission? Yet Paris argued that they could. When a comet approaches the Sun, the ice on its surface begins to sublimate, creating a massive cloud of gas around the nucleus. This cloud, known as the coma, consists primarily of water, which solar radiation then breaks down into hydrogen and hydroxyl molecules. And here is the crucial connection. The cloud of neutral hydrogen surrounding the comet can emit radio waves at precisely the same frequency, 1420 MHz. Paris's theory posited that in August 1977, a previously unidentified comet accidentally drifted into the field of view of the Big Ear radio telescope, and the instrument recorded the emissions coming from its massive hydrogen envelope. This neatly explained both the specific frequency and why the signal originated from a seemingly empty region of the sky. After all, comets are faint objects, often difficult to spot visually. Antonio Paris had a theory that was both bold and elegant, yet it was missing crucial evidence. To prove or disprove his hypothesis, he first needed to find the suspects, comets that might have been positioned in the exact location in the sky at the precise moment required. Paris immersed himself in astronomical archives and soon identified 2 potential candidates: the comets, bearing the rather unremarkable designations 266P Christensen and 335P Gibbs. These particular comets were only discovered much later, in the early 2000s, meaning that in 1977 no one had any idea they existed. By painstakingly calculating their orbits backward in time, Paris concluded that one, or possibly both, of these comets could very well have passed through the field of view of the Big Ear telescope precisely on August 15, 1977. This felt like a genuine breakthrough. It suggested that one of the greatest astronomical mysteries of the 20th century was finally on the verge of being solved. Paris quickly formulated a plan. He decided to wait until these comets next returned to the inner solar system, then point a radio telescope directly at them and test whether they emitted radio waves at the critical frequency of 1420 MHz. This would be the ultimate test. If he could successfully capture a wow-like signal emanating from either of these comets, the entire mystery would finally be resolved. The scientific community watched in anticipation. While many remained deeply skeptical, The sheer elegance of the theory made everyone secretly wish that Paris's revolutionary idea would turn out to be true. In January 2017, Antonio Paris conducted what he believed was his conclusive experiment. He used a 10-meter radio telescope to observe Comet 266P Christensen as it traversed the exact region of the sky where the original WOW signal had originated. Remarkably, he managed to detect radio emissions at 1420 MHz. Paris immediately published a paper declaring that the mystery of the WOW signal had finally been solved. The news quickly spread through global media. Headlines screamed, "Century-old mystery solved, the WOW signal was just a comet." However, the scientific community reacted to this claim with serious skepticism. Other radio astronomers analyzed Paris's work and pointed out several major flaws. Firstly, the signal he recorded from the comet was thousands of times weaker than the original WOW signal. For a comet to produce such a powerful burst, its surrounding hydrogen cloud would have had to be implausibly vast and dense. Secondly, critics noted that if the cometary hypothesis were correct, the Big Ear telescope, which scanned the sky for decades, should have regularly detected similar signals from other comets. Yet the WOW signal remains a unique, isolated event. And finally, the most critical argument against the theory, the WOW signal, was highly narrowband. This means all of its energy was concentrated within a very tight frequency range. Natural sources, such as the hydrogen clouds around comets, emit across a much wider spectrum. Narrowband emission is widely considered the hallmark of an artificial origin. Therefore, while aesthetically pleasing, the cometary hypothesis ultimately failed to stand up to scrutiny. The mystery of the WOW signal once again remained unsolved. While some scientists were busy trying to pin the WOW signal on comets, others stumbled upon a new, baffling phenomenon in radio astronomy: fast radio bursts, or FRBs. These signals were first detected in 2007, and they shared a striking resemblance to the WOW event. Like WOW, they were incredibly powerful, yet extremely brief, bursts of radio waves coming from deep space. They last only a few milliseconds, but in that tiny time frame, they release as much energy as the sun generates over several days. The true nature of fast radio bursts remains one of the greatest mysteries in modern astrophysics. Scientists have proposed various sources, ranging from the merger of neutron stars and black holes to the activity of exotic magnetars, neutron stars possessing unbelievably powerful magnetic fields. This led to a compelling hypothesis: what if the WOW signal was simply the very first fast radio burst ever recorded? In 1977, astronomers had no knowledge that this class of phenomena even existed, which is why they initially mistook the signal for something unique. This idea was highly appealing, as it offered a natural, if extremely exotic, explanation for the WOW signal's immense power and its one-off nature. The hypothesis that the WOW signal might actually be a fast radio burst, FRB, certainly deserved serious consideration. Let's compare these two phenomena. The similarities are striking. Both are powerful, short duration, unexplained radio signals originating from deep space. They appear to come from random points in the sky and typically don't repeat, though we have since found repeating FRBs. This single event nature would perfectly explain why the WOW signal was only ever detected once. However, a deeper dive reveals significant disparities. The primary difference lies in frequency. Most known FRBs are observed at significantly higher frequencies than 1420 MHz, MHDs. Signals occurring at a frequency as low as the WOWs are exceedingly rare. The second major divergence is duration. A typical FRB lasts only milliseconds, whereas the WOW signal persisted for a full 72 seconds. Granted, this extended duration could possibly be explained by the mechanics of the Big Ear telescope, which would have effectively smeared out a brief, powerful burst over its observation window. But the most fundamental difference of all, and arguably the deciding factor, is the bandwidth. While fast radio bursts are powerful, they are generally broadband phenomena. The WOW signal, by contrast, was anomalously narrow band. This specific characteristic is precisely what makes the signal so strongly resemble an artificial transmission, and so fundamentally different from every known natural phenomenon, including FRBs. Therefore, while this hypothesis hasn't been completely ruled out, it ultimately failed to provide a definitive answer for the wow signal. And now we reach the culmination of our story, the moment that once again made the world buzz with talk of contact. Decades had passed since the famous wow signal was first detected. Science had advanced dramatically. The original SETI project had transformed into the Global Breakthrough Listen Initiative, bankrolled by billionaire Yuri Milner. Scientists now had access to the most powerful telescopes on the planet, capable of scanning the skies with unprecedented sensitivity and speed. Then in 2019, while observing our nearest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri, using the Parkes radio telescope in Australia, something extraordinary happened. Analyzing the data, the Breakthrough Listen team detected a strange signal. It was incredibly faint, yet it possessed all the hallmarks scientists had been searching for decades. Like the wow signal, it was narrowband. It originated from the direction of a specific star system, one known to host at least one planet within its habitable zone, and, most intriguingly, its frequency was slowly shifting, or drifting. This drift could potentially be caused by the movement of the planet sending the transmission. The signal was dubbed BLC-1, short for Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1. A stir erupted within the scientific community. Information quickly leaked to the press. It seemed like this was the moment everyone had been waiting for. While not a direct repeat of the wow signal, this was its spiritual successor, a transmission possessing the exact same tantalizing characteristics. After 4 decades of cosmic silence, had the universe finally decided to speak again? Let's take a closer look at 2 enigmatic signals, the legendary wow signal from 1977 and the new candidate, BLC-1. The similarities between them were striking, sparking cautious optimism. Both signals were narrowband, a crucial signature of artificial technology. Natural astrophysical processes typically spread energy across a wide frequency spectrum. Technology, however, allows power to be concentrated into a very narrow band, making the signal easy to distinguish from background noise. The second major similarity was the lack of any obvious natural explanation. They didn't resemble the radiation from pulsars, quasars, or anything else in the standard astronomical zoo of known cosmic objects, but there were significant differences as well. The wow signal was incredibly powerful, over 30 times stronger than the background noise. BLC-1, conversely, was extremely faint, right at the limit of detection. Wow! Originated from an apparently empty region of the sky, whereas BLC-1 was clearly associated with our closest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri. And finally, the most intriguing difference, frequency drift. The wow signal was perfectly stable, showing no drift. However, the frequency of BLC-1 was slowly but steadily increasing. Counterintuitively, this drift was actually a stronger argument for artificial origins than the stability of wow. It suggested the source of the signal was moving relative to Earth, perhaps rotating on the surface of a distant planet. Taken together, these factors made BLC-1 the single most compelling candidate for a signal from an extraterrestrial civilization in the history of SETI. The breakthrough. Listen team fully understood the gravity of their responsibility. They simply could not afford to make a mistake. Before issuing any sweeping public statements, they needed to conduct the most rigorous investigation possible, ruling out every conceivable terrestrial source of interference. This task was akin to a detective's case. The scientists methodically began checking every possible scenario. Could the signal have originated from one of the thousands of satellites orbiting Earth? They cross-referenced the catalogues of every known satellite, but found that none were in the right location, at the right time, or operating on the required frequency. What about a passing aircraft? Ruled out too. The signal's trajectory and characteristics did not match. Perhaps it was interference from ground equipment near the observatory, a faulty microwave oven, or a mobile phone. Such accidental contamination was not unheard of in the history of radio astronomy. The team then analyzed data from other telescopes observing Proxima Centauri simultaneously, but from different vantage points across the globe. If the signal were genuine, These other sites should have detected it as well, but the other telescopes remained silent. This was a critical warning sign. The investigation had hit a wall. The signal had been registered only by the Parkes telescope, and only when it was pointed directly at Proxima Centauri. It appeared and vanished in sync with the star. It was the perfect ghost signal, tantalizing the scientists, yet refusing to be captured or definitively verified. After months of painstaking effort and with almost all hope exhausted, the research team decided to dig even deeper. They began analyzing not only the main observation data, but also archival records taken at the same time, but focused on entirely different parts of the sky. And this is where they finally had a breakthrough, one that, alas, turned out to be a crushing disappointment. They discovered numerous other signals very similar to BLC-1, which had been recorded when the telescope was pointed in completely different directions. These signals were too faint to be immediately noticed, but detailed analysis revealed their structure was identical to BLC-1. It became clear that the source of the signal was not connected to Proxima Centauri. It was terrestrial radio interference. But where were they coming from? After a long search, the culprit was finally found. The source was faulty electronic equipment, most likely a digital frequency generator located somewhere in the observatory's immediate vicinity. This device created a series of weak but regular radio signals on nearby frequencies. When the telescope was aimed at Proxima Centauri, one of these harmonic signals accidentally drifted into the observation band and was amplified, creating the illusion of a genuine cosmic signal. The frequency drift was also explained simply. It was a consequence of the faulty device heating up and cooling down. The greatest hope of recent years turned out to be nothing more than a technical glitch. The mystery of BLC-1 was solved, and it was certainly not extraterrestrial intelligence. Even though the BLC-1 signal ultimately turned out to be a letdown, the entire episode was hugely beneficial for the SETI project. It served as a vital dress rehearsal for the day we actually do pick up a genuine signal. First, it allowed us to fine-tune the methodology for checking candidate signals. Scientists now have a clear operational protocol for distinguishing a genuine extraterrestrial transmission from tricky, subtle, Earth-based interference. This experience is absolutely invaluable. Second, the incident highlighted just how sensitive our equipment has become. We've learned to pick up incredibly faint signals, meaning our odds of hearing something real are constantly improving. Third, it demonstrated the true honesty and transparency of the scientific process. The breakthrough. Listen team didn't try to hide their mistake. They published an exceptionally detailed report of their investigation, showing the world exactly how science works, through hypotheses, rigorous testing, and, yes, the occasional error. But perhaps most importantly, the BLC-1 story forced scientists to take a fresh look at the decades-old mystery of the WOW signal. While BLC-1, which initially looked so much like an artificial transmission, eventually found a terrestrial explanation, the WOW signal has not. For 40 years, no one has been able to offer a convincing theory of its origin that explains all its specific characteristics. Now that its younger brother, BLC-1, has been proven a dud, the sheer uniqueness and mystery of the original WOW signal has become even more striking. It remains completely alone, unexplained and truly singular. So, here we are, back at square one, staring at that original printout with the circled word, WOW. Every attempt to explain it away using natural causes, whether it was a reflection of an Earth signal, comet emissions, or some rare type of fast radio burst, has simply fallen short. Each of those theories consistently crashed into one or more of the signal's unique characteristics: its perfect Gaussian profile, its precise 72-second duration, its incredible power, and most critically, its unusually narrow bandwidth focused right on the sacred SETI hydrogen frequency. So what are we left with? We are left with the one hypothesis that takes many people's breath away: the possibility of an artificial origin. Let's entertain that thought for a moment. If it is true, what exactly did we detect? Was it a targeted transmission sent specifically toward the solar system, aiming for us? That seems highly unlikely. Nobody could have known that a civilization capable of receiving that transmission would exist on the third planet precisely at that moment. More probably, if it was artificial, it was a beacon, a high-powered transmitter monotonously sending a simple, repetitive signal in a fixed direction just to announce its presence. Or perhaps we intercepted the beam of a powerful radar system, one that some distant civilization uses for navigation or studying the interstellar medium. Another possibility is that we simply witnessed an energy leakage from the engine of a starship, utilizing some technology currently unknown to us. The possibilities are endless, and yes, they all sound like pure science fiction, but until we find a better explanation, the artificial origin hypothesis absolutely cannot be ruled out. The enigma of the WOW signal is intrinsically linked to one of the most fundamental questions in modern science, the Fermi paradox. This paradox, first articulated by physicist Enrico Fermi in the mid-20th century, is deceptively simple. Where is everyone? Our Milky Way galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, many of these likely host planets. Some of those planets must be similar to Earth. Life could have arisen on a portion of them, and a fraction of that life could have evolved into intelligent, technologically advanced civilizations. Given the age of the universe, such civilizations would have had billions of years to develop and spread across the galaxy. So why do we see no trace of them whatsoever? No probes, no artifacts, and certainly no detectable radio signals. This deafening cosmic silence is what we call the Great Silence. It is against the backdrop of this silence that the WOW signal appears, a single, brief, and incoherent shout. It doesn't solve the Fermi paradox. Instead, it makes it even more acute. It seems to tell us that someone is out there, or at least that someone once was. But why the subsequent silence? Perhaps civilizations exist, but they are incredibly rare and separated by insurmountable distances. Or maybe they choose not to contact us due to security concerns or strategic isolation. Or perhaps they simply don't last long, quickly self-destructing through nuclear wars or environmental collapse. The WOW signal offers no answers, only new and even more unsettling questions. To try and systematize the odds of encountering extraterrestrial intelligence, astronomer Frank Drake proposed his famous formula, the Drake equation, back in 1960. This equation doesn't provide a definite answer. Rather, it serves as a powerful framework for contemplation. It comprises 7 factors which, when multiplied together, should theoretically yield the number of intelligent, communicative civilizations currently active in our galaxy. These factors include the rate of star formation, the fraction of those stars that have planets, the average number of planets residing in the habitable zone, the percentage of planets where life actually arises, and so on. Today, thanks to modern telescopes, we can estimate most of these parameters with a respectable degree of accuracy. But the final and most crucial factor, denoted by the letter L, is the average lifespan of a technological civilization. This is where we enter the realm of pure speculation. How long does a technological society survive? 100 years? 1,000? 1,000,000? We simply don't know because we have only one sample size, our own, and our technological era is barely a century old. The famous WOW signal plays an intriguing role in the context of this equation. If that signal was genuine, it means the value of L is not 0. Someone existed long enough to build a powerful transmitter. However, the fact that we heard it only once might suggest that the value of L could be very, very small. Perhaps civilizations are like striking a match in the dark. They flare up intensely and then quickly burn out. The technology used to search for extraterrestrial signals has been completely revolutionized since 1977. Back then, the big ear was essentially a single, large, and rather deaf instrument, capable of monitoring only one channel at a time. Today, modern SETI systems are advanced digital networks that can analyze billions of channels simultaneously. The Breakthrough Listen project, which we've mentioned before, utilizes the world's largest radio telescopes, including Green Bank in the US and Parkes in Australia. The amount of data they gather in a single day now surpasses the total volume collected by all previous SETI projects combined over the past 50 years. To process these massive data sets, scientists rely on state-of-the-art algorithms and artificial intelligence. Neural networks are specifically trained to identify potentially artificial signals hidden within trillions of bytes of cosmic noise, pinpointing anomalies that a human analyst might easily overlook. Furthermore, the search strategy itself has also fundamentally changed. Where scientists used to scan the sky blindly, they are now purposefully observing thousands of the nearest stars, especially those where Earth-like exoplanets have been discovered. Our chances of success today are incomparably higher than they were in the time of Jerry Amon, and yet despite all these technological breakthroughs, the WOW signal remains the single strongest candidate for a genuine contact event in SETI history. This fact underscores just how rare and perhaps how fleeting such events can be. Looking ahead, it's clear that our ability to listen to the cosmos is only going to improve. Several megaprojects are looming on the horizon, poised to be absolute game changers. The biggest of these is the Giant Square Kilometre Array Radio Telescope, or SKA, which is being constructed simultaneously across sites in South Africa and Australia. Once completed, it will be the largest and most sensitive telescope in human history. Its effective collecting area will span 1 square kilometre, and it will be capable of scanning the sky 10,000 times faster than any instrument currently operating. Using the SKA, we could detect signals as faint as Earth's airport radar systems coming from dozens of the nearest stars. This means if life out there is using technology even remotely similar to our own, we will almost certainly hear them. The SKA won't just look for deliberate messages. It will also be able to detect accidental radio leakage from alien cities and technologies, much like the radio waves from our own TV stations and cellular networks drift unintentionally into space. Perhaps the SKA will finally be the instrument that catches the elusive WOW signal once more, or finds its many counterparts, finally bringing an end to the great silence. Let's take a minute away from the science and technology and reflect on the profound philosophical implications of this story. What fundamentally changes for humanity if we ever obtain undeniable proof of extraterrestrial intelligence? The consequences of such a discovery would be truly monumental, impacting every facet of human existence: religion, philosophy, politics, and culture. The realization that we are not alone in the cosmos might become the most powerful unifying force in human history. When confronted by the others, our earthly differences, national, racial, and religious, might suddenly seem trivial and meaningless. It could effectively end wars and conflicts, forcing us to recognize ourselves as a single species, inhabitants of one small, shared planet. On the other hand, it could equally trigger a profound existential crisis. Many core religious dogmas would be immediately called into question. Our fundamental concept of our place and uniqueness within the universe would be shattered. This could lead to widespread fear, panic, and the sudden emergence of new, radicalized cults. The story of the WOW signal is ultimately a narrative about the balance between hope and fear, between boundless curiosity and genuine awe of the unknown. It is a story about whether we are truly ready for contact, or if we are simply more comfortable remaining in the safe illusion of our own solitude. So, when you boil it all down, what exactly is the WOW signal? It is 72 seconds of data recorded by an old radio telescope over 40 years ago. It is an anomaly that has defied every single attempt to explain it. It is the ghost in the machine that still captivates the minds of scientists and dreamers alike. Perhaps we will never know its true nature. Maybe it was just an incredibly rare and bizarre combination of natural factors, something we simply don't yet have the power to understand. Or maybe, just maybe, it truly was what everyone hoped for. A brief hello from the depths of space, which we caught only by sheer chance. Regardless of the answer, the legacy of the WOW signal is immense. It became a powerful catalyst for the development of the SETI project. It inspired a whole generation of scientists, engineers, and enthusiasts not to give up the search. It serves as an eternal reminder that the universe is full of mysteries, and the most incredible discoveries might be waiting where we least expect them. The WOW signal is more than just a mystery. It is a symbol of human ambition for knowledge, a symbol of our insatiable hunger to look beyond the horizon and discover if we truly are alone in this endless, starry night. But let's circle back to the idea of repetition. I initially intrigued you by mentioning that a signal from the void had supposedly repeated itself 40 years after the original event. As we now know, the BLC-1 signal was a false alarm, a brilliant piece of scientific detective work that culminated in a disappointing, though highly instructive, conclusion. This leaves us with the fact that the original wow signal has never been repeated. No one has ever heard anything like it again, not from that specific location, nor from anywhere else in the sky. This fact only makes it more unique. Picture yourself walking across a vast, endless desert when suddenly you hear a single, solitary chime of a distant bell. You follow the sound, find nothing, and the sound is never heard again. What would your conclusion be? Did you simply imagine it? Was it a mirage? Or does it mean that somewhere, just beyond the dunes, there is truly something or someone that you missed entirely? That is exactly the position science finds itself in today regarding the wow signal. It was that lone bell striking in the cosmic silence. The concept of its repetition, embodied by BLC-1, was really just a reflection of our desperate hope, our profound desire for that silence to finally be broken. We want that answer so badly that we are willing to mistake the echoes of our own technology for a response, but for now, the cosmos remains silent, holding tightly to its greatest mystery. As our lecture draws to a close, let's take a final look back at the remarkable journey we've taken together. We began in 1977 at a quiet observatory in Ohio, where a single scientist scrawled a note on a printout, forever changing the history of the search for extraterrestrial life. We dissected the wow signal, understanding its profound uniqueness, its strength, its specific frequency, its perfect structure, and its utterly inexplicable origin. We tracked the decades of fruitless searching and persistent silence that followed. We examined, and ultimately rejected, the most popular natural explanations, from passing comets to exotic astrophysical phenomena. We then fast-forwarded to the modern era, witnessing the drama surrounding the BLC-1 candidate signal, which briefly offered fresh hope, but ultimately taught us a valuable lesson about the ease of self-deception. And in the end, we find ourselves face to face once again with the original mystery, one that, over more than 4 decades, has only grown deeper and more enigmatic. This story is not just about a simple signal. It is a story about the boundaries of our knowledge, the enduring power of the scientific method, and the eternal human question we continue to send into the night sky. Are we alone? What can we really take away from this story? The main lesson, perhaps, is that the search for truth is a long and winding road, filled with false starts, dead ends, and deep frustration. Science simply doesn't offer quick or easy answers. It demands patience, meticulous rigor, and, crucially, a willingness to admit when you're wrong. The story of the wow signal and its supposed repetition in BLC-1 is a perfect illustration of this principle, but there is a second, more inspiring conclusion. It's that we absolutely must not stop searching. Just because we haven't found anyone yet doesn't mean no one is out there. The universe is vast, and we have only just begun to listen to it. Our technological civilization has existed for barely a cosmic blink. Perhaps all we need is more time, or better instruments, or maybe we need to learn to look for something entirely different, something nothing like ourselves. The wow signal remains a guiding light for everyone who believes in the possibility of contact. It seems to tell us, keep listening, don't give up. Maybe one day you will hear something far greater than just a 72-second whisper. Our sleep lecture for tonight is now drawing to a close. We've delved deep into one of the most intriguing mysteries of modern science, traveling through the decades, from old analog printouts right up to AI-driven data analysis. We saw how hope gave way to disappointment and how certainty was replaced by ever-new questions. The mystery of the wow signal remains unsolved. It is frustrating, yes, but also utterly captivating, because as long as the mystery endures, so too does the dream. The dream that one day we will receive undeniable, irrefutable proof that we are not alone. That somewhere out there, deep within the Milky Way, there are other islands of consciousness, in the vast ocean of the cosmos. And perhaps they too are gazing up at their own stars, looking toward our distant sun, and wondering the very same thing. May this grand cosmic mystery, this singular thought, lull you now into slumber and guide you to the world of dreams, where everything is possible, even a quiet conversation with the stars. Good night and clear skies. So, where does this leave us? We are left with a truly unique event from 1977 that still defies a satisfactory scientific explanation. The WOW signal remains a genuine anomaly, a profound challenge to our understanding of the universe. And then we have the tale of the alleged repetition of that signal, the BLC-1 story, which in the end turned out to be nothing more than complex radio interference. This significant turn of events didn't solve the old mystery. Instead, it only underscored its singularity. It highlighted how easily we can mistake wishful thinking for reality, but it also demonstrated the power of the scientific method, which is capable of separating the wheat from the chaff. The main takeaway is simple. The WOW signal remains isolated and unexplained. This makes it no less and perhaps even more valuable. It stands as the benchmark against which all future candidate signals will be measured. Thank you for spending this time with me, delving into the mysteries of the cosmos. I hope this journey wasn't just interesting, but also helped you relax and prepare for a good night's sleep. If you enjoyed this exploration, please consider supporting the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next nocturnal journey. Now, before you drift off completely, I want to leave you with one final thought. Please leave your answer in the comments when you wake up. If you had the chance to send a single 72-second message into space, knowing another civilization might hear it, what would you say? What message would you transmit on behalf of all humanity? Good night,